Eject tape. Here we go. It's a Tuesday night. It's the big show with Matthew Matson, the lovely, talented, magical, and mysterious Matthew Matson. And I am Pop Blender, and we're here to hang out for a couple hours and shoot the breeze and bring up some pop culture topics of a few different kinds, actually, today. We got some video games. We've got some G.I. Joe Omnibus Compendium with some other stuff you've acquired, and then obviously some movie and TV news and a little bit of a cable TV, so to speak, problem that's going on right now that's affecting sports fans out there. And it's a lot of them. Don't know how many is in our audience. Maybe a few, maybe all of them. I don't know. We'll find out. But anyway, so I am Pop Blender, and this is Matthew Matson, as always, on Tuesday night. How are you doing, my man?
I'm living the life, having a good time. Had a restful weekend and a relatively short day today, so I'm good.
Sweet, a short day today. I like that.
So I work a couple really long days, and to make up for it, the other days have to be a little bit shorter. Still doesn't matter. I'm still in the clinic 60 some odd hours a day a week.
Right. Right. Either way, you're going to get your hours in regardless.
More than.
but I do like the ability though to kind of have if you put in a longer day and that, and then to be able to come back on the back end and maybe do a shorter day here or there is kind of nice.
Yeah, if they'd allow me, I would do 4 long days and then have 3-day weekends every time. But they say, no, you have to be in the clinic 5 days a week. I'm like,
man, listen, I've told people for years, it has worked out for years. I say negotiated. There's no negotiating really. It's kind of non-negotiable, but the owner of my company was so cool when I talked to him, told him I had a son at that time. My son was 10 or 9, whatever, no, he should, I've been there 8 years. So he's 16. So he's 8. And I said, look, I get him every other weekend. So I have to be off every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's non-negotiable. Like I can't, in the restaurant business, that is not the easiest thing to come.
No, it's not.
And he was all on board. He's a family man. They're church going people, not that they don't have fun or whatever, but he believes in family and all that kind of stuff. And so he was like, hey, I'm A-okay with that. And so I've had it for the last 8 years. And so it's awesome. It is a 3-day weekend, so to speak. It is nice to be able to recharge. And when you spend your time talking for a living, it is kind of nice sometimes to take those 3 days off every other weekend and just chill with my kid. And sometimes, man, we could just sit there and play games and not say anything for 2 hours, 3 hours. But that's that. Anyway, so yeah, glad to hear, man. Glad to hear you had a short day. We have a lot of topics to cover today, and we're going to hit them up. Some y'all may be interested in, some of them you may have not heard of, but whatever. That's what we do.
There's a couple of them I bet you guys haven't heard of yet.
I would dare say, and one of them I got turned on to today by you, and I tried to turn my cousin 3-Star Draw onto it, and hopefully he'll get a chance to watch it. Easy breezy, really awesome. I'll let you delve into that, and obviously I can add my comments too. But let's say hey to the chat real quick here. Some people were obviously here early and often. War Chest full of toys is up in the chat and waiting. He was first one in. Frostbite's G.I. Joe Repro and to go. Let's go down a little bit here. Eric Thurman in the house. Good to see you, man. Always a pleasure. 3-Star Draw is here, and he's probably working on some a review or some photographs or a video of some kind because he's got some content coming out soon.
Nice.
And I love what he says there, gentlemen and pop. It should say gentleman and pop. But listen, that's neither here nor there or anywhere. And then as we get down, Dreadnought K6 is in the house too. Daredevil Dave is here. And so far, so good. And Dreadnought, thank you for subbing to the channel. I saw that earlier. I got a notification on that. So I really appreciate it. Anybody that's not subbed, Be glad if you did throw a subscribe, and if you like hanging out, you like what we do, you like what I do, or you just like to hear me ramble for a while. It's always nice. And I love to hear Matthew ramble because he doesn't ramble. He's clear, he's concise, he gets the job done, and he always has a smile. It's fascinating actually. There's one other fella that I've met in the last several months who every time I see this guy come in to where I work, the guy smile. I swear to God, he's always got a smile. It's fascinating to me. And I love it. It makes me smile. So all right, let's get into a little bit of content, shall we? Um, got a few banners made up. Kind of wanted to lead off because this is something that you just got, and this is something that I think a lot of the people in this chat will be interested in. So I just kind of wanted to bring up the Carson Metaxas interviews with Larry Hama and Kurt Bazigian and some other creators. So kind of fill me in, run me down, give me an idea of how this came to be, how you got it, and obviously some other folks maybe in the chat will know about this and maybe get their hands on these. So take it away, Matthew.
So I guess it was about 12 years ago or so. Carson Metaxas started down this project of collecting all the package artwork for G.I. Joe from 82 to 94. And he started talking to people and buying stuff on auctions and talking with Hasbro executives to track down who made all this artwork and to find out who each artist was. In the process of doing so, he collected it all, put it out in paperbacks, and then he kept working on it because he was never satisfied with it. And he kept going back to his sources and he made better versions of the artwork. He got interviews. He sat down with his camera, took it around with him wherever he went, and interviewed the artists about their process, about creating it, about working for Hasbro, and putting it all together. And it finally was released in that giant 50-pound book that some of us have. And if you got in on the initial Kickstarter on that one, and since I've been following forever, I knew about this too. He has a digipack where he compiled all the interviews, and there are 10 hours of interviews from the creators of G.I. Joe's artwork. And so there's 4 discs, and it goes from the early 80s to the late 80s to the early 90s to some miscellaneous stuff at conventions. But yeah, no, this is just really awesome stuff with Ed Morrell and Kirk Bazigian,
awesome.
Ron Rudat, Larry Hama, Bill Merkin, and Doug Hart.
Yeah.
And 10 hours of videos. I've only gotten through about 40 minutes of it. I went straight to the Comic-Con panel with Kirk and Larry, and surprise, I got a surprise in there, and Carson confirmed it the other day, is after Kirk and Larry were done with their scripted talk and they opened the floor up to questions, the first person to ask a question was Mark Webber. And if you know who Mark Webber is, he was also head of G.I. Joe and Boys Toys at Hasbro later down the line after Kirk left, but he had a big role in rolling out some of the late 90s, early 2000s stuff. And I think it's funny that he had a question for him. But incredible content. I'm big on documentaries. I just finished a whole nother documentary on Americans making Japanese swords better than the Japanese these days, which was a fascinating documentary.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, I actually need to check that out. And my son probably would love to watch that too.
Yeah, that one's called The Sun Shadow. It's a 3-part thing. But this one's got just one little bit with Larry in it that I've seen so far. The rest of it are the other creators, and it's great that he documented all this stuff, because in the process of making this, some of the people that worked on some of the great artwork that he couldn't get a hold of were having health problems and passed away. And he's got this documented on Ron Rudat, and last time I saw Ron, he wasn't looking the best.
Not doing too well. I
mean, he's making it around conventions and he's having a good time, and his wife is with him the whole time.
Right.
And he's having a good time, but there were just some signs that I see that mean that he probably won't be able to do this for very much longer. And Larry Hama's almost in the same boat these days too. He keeps getting con crud or getting sick from one thing or another and having to cancel shows from time to time. So I'm always thinking about their health and their well-being. And also I know his hands.
Yes, I
Larry's
actually
hands
went over
are
that one
gone.
night. Yeah, on an unfiltered stream. I think I brought that up where he
And
was, talking about his hands just
yeah,
not
so
being
he's
able to
really
function.
upped his prices on his sketches and stuff like that. And, if you're asking him to sign a whole bunch of stuff, he's going to charge a little bit more.
Yep.
And he also, if you don't personalize it, he charges. Um, if you want him to sign just his name, he's going to charge you. If
Yeah.
you personalize it, he's going to personalize it, 3 or 4 things for you and then move on.
Yeah.
He's really great.
I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that kind of that's where we're at. But we also understand that's where we're at too, right? These guys were getting into this probably in I would dare say 30s, 40s. Age wise, maybe
Larry
30s,
started in his 20s with
20s,
Marvel
right?
Comics.
20s,
Yeah.
30s, but career wise, and so sometimes you see about those things, it makes you realize, golly, like time does fly.
Yeah.
What I was thinking about, and I want to say hi to Bobby Wold too, who stops in.
What's up, Bobby?
And he definitely liked the Larry Hama interviews on the Toys That Made Us. I do too. I love that series. I love that episode, especially.
There's another season of that coming.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to see which ones they do. I haven't really looked up any info on it, but the one thing I want to say is that the amount of footage that had to be taken to do something where you end up getting 10, 11, whatever, how many hours it is, and then have to go through that. You have to comb through that. You have to scrub through that footage. You have to edit that footage. You have to, try to maybe doctor it, make it look a little better. Maybe you have to, transfer some things, whatever it is like that. I can't imagine how much footage that was to comb through for him to go through.
And then he's also got to get the approval of people that he interviewed. He said, "Is this all right? Is this all right with you?"
That's true, because certain statements are off the cuff things that people say. And
yep.
That's a lot of follow-up, man. That's a lot of work. And so that's,
and I know for a fact that he had some conversations with some people that they're like, let's not put that in.
I'm sure. I know that you definitely know, but I'm sure people can imagine that. Yes, I mean there are some things, and I think too that anytime somebody does, whether it's a book or whatever, the amount of back and forth that you have to have with the subject of your book or the what's on the record, what's off the record, right?
Yep.
All this knowledge that you may have that you can't even really expound on it. You can't tell anybody, but it's just all the stuff from a time period or something. Like I'm sure there's some fascinating stories in there.
It's interesting what I held back on in the book that I wrote, and then I still got in a little bit of trouble with some things, but it caused such a controversy that the heads of organizations had to get together, have a conversation, and they averaged out and kind of put it in the middle. So it's like, well, that's not exactly correct, but what we said wasn't correct either. So it's actually somewhere in between there. And I'm like, got you thinking.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I like that. How can somebody get their hands on
so
these?
Currently I believe you can buy them directly from 3djoes.com.
Okay.
He still has some left. If you were part of the initial Kickstarter, there was an email sent out, and you have until October, I believe October 1st, to pay for the shipping to get your digicopy that was included in your Kickstarter. Okay. If you weren't in the Kickstarter, I believe you can still buy them on his website. Also, if you subscribe to his website for a monthly fee, you'll have access to all of the videos that he's done and more.
Okay.
And other content that he's putting out on his website, because it costs quite a bit of money to keep that up. And he has committed to doing what yojo.com could not, and that is retain the rights of his website in perpetuity. Yojo.com lost the rights to their website. And so now another company is running it, and they are not upkeeping it. So they're not updating it, and they are not upkeeping it. So things are starting to degrade, and some links don't work anymore like they used to. So the website will eventually fall apart and won't be as useful of a resource. And so Carson's is the best currently functioning and updating resource for G.I. Joes from 82 to 94.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that that omnibus is just, I mean, it's amazing. Like I was telling you before we went on, my 3-star draw, my cousin brought it over here, a family function. And yes, it is heavy, right? If you haven't held it, if you hadn't seen it, um, I saw his, and then obviously at Joe Fest, it was, they were there, had their booth and everything. Um, yes, it's heavy, but it's freaking awesome, dude. That time period, especially if you're a fan of that time period, it is an amazing thing to have. The artwork is amazing. The origin. I mean, there's just so much information in there. It take you it take you so long to pour through it that a lot of it you're going to forget and have to go
Yeah.
back and look at again because there's just so much information in that thing.
Yeah,
But it is,
he's such a good dude, so detail orientated, um, and he loves this stuff so much and loves all the
yeah.
people involved with it, the fellowship, the people, and the all the groups. Man, he's so nice and friendly and just
I mean,
gracious.
we're all fans. The people that are here, people watching, people are going to go back and watch replay or whatever. And for those of you that are here, throw a like up there if you can. Anybody on the replay at this point, if you forgot, throw a like on the video. It definitely helps. It definitely helps when we're not showing trailers because evidently I had about 4 copyright things last week when we got done immediately after the stream was over. And that was fun, trimming and going through the segments. But anyway, nonetheless, yeah, all the likes and shares and all that stuff, it definitely helps get the word out. But yes,
I was worried about that, but
yeah, and we didn't even. That's the thing, like pausing, talking over, and
yeah.
sometimes without sound. At this point, I don't know what to do. If you're a large creator, I think a lot of times maybe you're able to because you've built up
If you have a
your
YouTube in contact, you can usually
yeah,
fight
yeah,
things and get it through, but you got to have a larger uh, presence, I guess.
yes. So I get it. We'll work through it, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to talk about trailers when you can't really go through the trailer and then everybody and their mother is trying to claim your content. But nonetheless,
Yeah, we
real
won't be
quick,
showing the diss track on here.
nope, not going to be showing the diss track. Oh God, I'd love to. I'd love to. I thought about showing her Instagram video too.
Oh
But it's
man,
eight
so
it's 8
bad.
minutes long and it's just
Way too
brutal.
long.
We'll get to that. I got one little thing pulled up about that. 3-star draw says go support Carson if y'all aren't already. Great dude, preserving the real American hero GI Joe is his passion, and it shows. I mean, it definitely shows. He says he grinned when he mentioned you at Joe Fest. So obviously he definitely correspondence and whatnot with Matthew, definitely. But yeah, he knows you, yeah, and you know that. So Wraith Mace is here, stopping in. We are the Hammer. He is the Hammer. He is the War Hammer. From now on, Mace is the War Hammer. And getting excited for the Space Marines too. I'm sure video game coming out soon. Should be soon.
The Amazing's
Um,
been doing a lot of Warhammer photo shoots lately with his
man,
between his Joy Toys and his McFarlane's. He's got some good stuff.
yeah. Every time I get on Instagram and start flipping through and either getting recommended or seeing your stuff and everybody else's stuff, man, it's yeah, it's some great photography going on.
Yeah.
I got a great camera and don't know how to use it. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man, that omnibus is awesome, and really for you, that's a lot of content to go through. I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
just popping that in and just kind of watching. But it's one thing to be able to listen to something, listen to a podcast, listen to everything. But when you have footage and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it takes time. It just takes time to go through. And so yeah, man, that'll keep you busy. Not that you ain't busy enough already. I swear, one of the busiest people I know, up early and going to bed late. um, so real quick, I kind of wanted to bring up something that we're not really used to in the mainstream media. Not really used to this at all. and it's the Rings of Power that just recently came out. They dropped 3 episodes to start off the new season, season 2. Yeah, that was difficult, even just getting through the first episode, and yeah, I'm gonna have a time trying to make it through this series. Variety. So the mainstream media has seemed to have turned on the Rings of Power now. So last year, after a whole season of every YouTuber, every pop culture YouTuber, every creator basically coming out saying this doesn't respect the lore, this they're making stuff up, which, hey, look, what TV show hasn't done that? I get it. But it's a lot of the show is so anti-Tolkien
Yep.
that that's what has fans, up in arms. And at this point now, the mainstream media is starting to turn, and you've seen article after article after article, um, which makes me wonder in this battle of culture. I don't know if I trust this. I don't know if I trust the media. I feel like they're
I,
going to slide in the back door somehow with this stuff.
I wouldn't, especially with what some groups are trying to do with Lucas right now,
Oh my
and
gosh,
Star Wars. They're
yes.
trying to manipulate Lucas into siding with them to justify their opinions on the Acolyte and other things. And they're trying to rage bait Lucas into saying something, or scouring for quotes by him to justify their position. But the problem is that most of those quotes were before Disney ever did anything with it. And he was talking about what he created in Star Wars and what he did, and how people weren't seeing what he did then.
Yes.
Imagine after the man passes, what they're going to do to him.
Well,
And we can see it here with what they're doing to Tolkien right now. And
yeah.
since Christopher Tolkien was the last bastion of the Tolkien family that had any integrity, once he passed away, the rest of the family doesn't care about the
No.
legacy.
And look, I far be it from me to tell someone whose family member did something that they need to care about the legacy, or they need to care about how they license out a product. It's, they own it, they can do whatever they want with it. And look, I understand it. And not everybody has the same level of care, right? And a lot of times we talk about, and we hear people that we watch and other creators, respect the lore, respect the source material. Well, some people just don't care. They don't care. They get a paycheck, right? They're going to make money. They're set for the rest of their life. And if they don't hold that same investment into the material, then it's going to show, unless you get competent showrunners, competent writers, people who actually really do care. And I think with this show, we've gotten a lot of
people who have read this book.
That absolutely. 100%. It's hiring the right people. Now you can license out the IP to whoever you want, and then it's up to that company to do their due diligence. And it just fascinates me, the fact that this show, I mean, I don't know how in the world they think they're going to get 5 seasons out of it. I don't know how they're going to get 4. I don't know how they're going to get 3. No one is watching this show.
So it may not matter, because this was Jeff Bezos' special project.
It was his Game of Thrones.
Right. But he threw money at it and didn't care. And his son stared at him and said, "Don't mess this up." So his son has got to be telling him what garbage this is. I mean, the first big mistake that they made was they fired Tom Shippey, one of the greatest Tolkien scholars of all time, because he was telling them, you can't do that. That is not anywhere in the lore. That actually defies the lore. And so they fired Tom Shippey because he wasn't going along with what they wanted to do, and they just steamrolled everything. And it really ticks me off to see that the Tolkien grandkids are doing this to the property, where the Frazetta grandkids are actually doing a pretty good job with the Frazetta artwork.
Yes. And I think you could see where things do fall into the two camps, and we talked about the other. I think it last week we brought up the Frazettas. I think it was last week. If
Yep.
I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so again, like I said, look, I can't convince somebody, the insurmountable number of fans out there that love Lord of the Rings and the property. If they can't convince these people, then they're just going to allow somebody to do whatever they want to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Amazon has done. Right. And the writing on this show, it doesn't even have any gravitas, right? Like there's no gravitas. It's like trying to use metaphors that don't make sense. It's like trying to sound intelligent
Yep.
without being intelligent.
Yeah.
And
And again, it goes against Tolkien's entire philosophy. He hated allegory, and they're
yes,
trying to use allegory and metaphor and everything, and they're coming up with the most unintelligible metaphors that you could ever imagine, and they don't make any sense. They're not applied contextually, and they're done by actors who clearly are thinking the same thing as they're trying to emote to these words that have been put down on page that are nonsensical.
yeah, and and I remember listening today on the Real BBC. I recommend anybody go pull that up and watch the Real BBC every Tuesday. It's not what you think it is, um, but it's a great pop culture podcast and show, I guess, stream every Tuesday during the day. And they were bringing up how they are rolling the R's when they talk about Mordor and how they have a speech Sauron, and they have a speech person that's come in and is trying, making these actors like roll their R's like 3 times when they mention Mordor and
And it all comes
Sauron.
back
And
to something that Peter Jackson had the actors do, or the actor decided to do, in speaking black speech
right.
in the original movies. And that's totally different because nobody else in the world speaks that way unless they were speaking in black speech. But that's totally different.
Yeah, but also too, it sounds different though. This sounds so contrived, and every time you hear it, it just makes my ears like, it just stands out, and it sounds so silly. It sounds
Yeah.
really goofy. And one thing that was brought up on that show today on the Real BBC was, the budget for this show, they're throwing money at this thing left and right, right? Just like the Acolyte, just like whatever that's been coming out recently. A lot of money going to these shows that are not good. But, you also have someone you're paying to no matter how many takes do they have to do because they don't get it right when they're reading the lines and acting the scene, and then they didn't roll their R's enough times, so they've got to do another take. I know that sounds silly,
No, yeah, that's an
but
expense. Yeah.
yes, like in reality, now I know we're not shooting on film anymore, right? So if we're shooting on film, it becomes a whole different, it's all digital, whatever. But again, it's just how many takes would you have to do because someone has to do a line and they don't do it correctly and they do it again and it's not correct. According to this speech person that's been hired and brought in, it just adds to it. But again, it takes me out of it because it just sounds so, it sounds so ridiculous. And the acting, a lot of times producers and directors, they direct the actors and they ask them, they tell them what to do. The actor's an empty vessel. But there's only a couple people in the show I've seen that to me are actual actors. Unless these guys, I don't know. I just can't see it. Like I think the acting is bad. I think the writing is bad. Is the show does it look good? So many critics talk about how the world building and it's beautiful and all that kind of stuff. I just don't. I guess it looks okay, but I'm not. I'm not mesmerized by this world building of this show.
I was unimpressed with some of the CGI stuff that they have going on there and the makeup and stuff like that. It doesn't look like they're spending that much money on it.
It doesn't, and I think there's better ways to tell the story. I think Sauron turning into a black goo like venom and like rolling across the floor of the forest or the leaf, and then attaching to a wheel of a cart, and it just looks goofy. I think there's so much better way to convey that. In the way they did
Well,
it, it
but they're
literally looks like
also,
venom.
I mean, they've so messed up the timeline. They're putting stuff that happened only in the third age, in the second age. They're reordering how the rings were forged.
Yes,
They're reordering what the rings were forged with.
yes,
Um, I mean, mithril was not used in the forging of any of the rings. They were forged by magic entirely, and it wasn't. Sauron had manipulated them, but he had already created the One Ring before the Elven Three Rings and everybody else's rings were created. Because he had to have the superior one that controlled the rest of them, that manipulated the rest of them. But they're also imbuing powers into three rings that those rings never had. And I mean, they've changed all the characters. There's every now and then there's like 5% of the show that has quality to it. You got an actor that actually has a piece of dialogue that actually is coherent, and it's like, oh, that was kind of cool. But the rest of it is just such garbage. You just can't get through it all.
yeah. It's a really hard show to get through. It's a slog.
Yep.
And some people say, "Oh, I don't mind a show that is a slow burn." Now, this is worse than a slow burn. And
It's
if you
not a
are,
slow burn. It's not going anywhere.
no, it's not going anywhere. And if you like Tolkien, if you like Lord of the Rings, if you appreciate those films, if you appreciate the book, if you've read the Silmarillion, like this show's going to piss you off. That's ultimately what
Yep.
they're gonna do. And real quick, I saw Wraith Mace brought up. He said once they didn't have the Weta workshop not do the armor props and everything, he was checked out, and that's an FX shop, right? Or they do armor and costumes, right? Creatures, characters, stuff like that. Originally, they were actually, and Wraith, you can correct me here, just looking it up on the front end because I was not as familiar, but I kind of just looked it up. Uh, Originally, I remember seeing like a couple of years ago. Are they not the ones that do the miniatures and all that kind of stuff? Are they the ones that actually do all the I guess for the tabletop and stuff like that? Maybe they're supposed to be the ones that were supposed to be involved and maybe got dropped like Tom Shippey. That's possible. But if you're in the chat still, Wraith, let me know. Like, kind of give me a little hint on that. I'm not as in the know on that in particular. Um, but
So
but yeah, and real quick, I just want to say Eric Thurman says, why did they have to mess up everything that I like? Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
been
we still
happening a
have the
lot.
parts of it that we love. We can always go back to that. Like, I want to just read this little section of a letter from J.R.R. Tolkien right here that might be prescient. I don't know, maybe. It's just a random page I turn to. As the stories become less mythical and more like stories and romance, men are interwoven for the most part. There are good men, families, and their chiefs who, rejecting the service of evil and hearing rumors of the gods of the West and the high elves, flee westward, come unto the contact with exiled elves in the midst of their war. I mean, you read something like that, and that has so much prescience, has so much meaning, and just those couple sentences that are there, that is more fulfilling than anything from that TV
Uh,
show.
yeah, yeah. It is, and I think finally we're starting to see the mainstream media really start to take it to task. I remember, last year, and this has been brought up. Only 37% of the people that started the series actually finished it, and that really says a lot because the people who are going to be tuning into that show are really like diehard fans. There's not a lot of normies out there that are like, "Oh, Rings of Power." If it's not Lord of the Rings, and really 20 years ago, as hype as those movies got, you had a lot of
Yeah,
normies checking it out. Um, Not a lot of people are checking that show out. A lot of the people are hardcore fans, and if you really do them wrong, then yes, you're only going to finish with 37% of the people that
yeah,
started it
and
actually finish the show.
this is one thing that that Gary brought up in one of his things. It's like the Tolkien fans are some of the smartest people on the planet. They know their stuff, and they know when they're being manipulated. And for the most part, most of them have been talking out, except for the ones that are giving access so bad that they will shill for a product so they can get access to the next thing. And what they don't realize is that they have turned off their entire fan base. And now you have this minority of social activists who don't participate. They don't watch the shows, they don't buy the merchandise, but they're participating where they have no business participating because they never have been and never will be a fan of the product. And it has nothing to do with gender identity or inclusivity, because these things were accessible to people around the world. And the Lord of the Rings trilogy was the most published books next to the Bible for the last century.
Correct. I mean,
so it's very accessible in all languages.
Huge.
And people all over the globe could take reference to it because they were not so egotistical to demand to see their exact persona represented in the story. They can relate to other human beings, other characters of other races and species. They can relate to them. And then the other thing that this show does that really irks me is orcs are pure evil.
This show is ridiculous with what they do. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I couldn't believe that shit.
Exactly. They are corrupted beings that have been tortured and manipulated and ground down so that they are the most corrupted of souls on the entire planet. If they have souls, they're the most corrupted things, right? They are a pestilence. They are the fear of the unknown. They are everything that is wrong with the world. They don't have sweet little family units. Yes, they breed. They breed through rape and pillage and murder. They breed by corrupting the souls of dead elves and ripping them out of the ground from being buried and turn them into orcs. Okay, this is how the orcs are created, right? They're not a sympathetic, manipulated species. That some people who want to play racial politics are saying align with certain races. And if you think that you are the problem with race, you are the racist.
Yeah, no, it's truly I'm trying to find a good depiction because I do want to show this.
Well, they have the one picture with the orc and the orc baby, right?
Oh, I know, yes, and I'm trying to see if I can find a good one. I had to kind of dim my screen on this other monitor so that way I could not have it so bright when I'm trying to look stuff up. But yes, it's let's see here. Rings of Power, Orc Family, images. Okay, let's see. We'll bring this one up. I'll see if I can share one of these. It's fascinating just this one picture alone. So let's see. It's from Forbes. Come on. Well, they make it real easy for you to browse a website, don't they? They just throw about 400 ads in your face.
Yeah. My favorite though is the Photoshop version with the FNT guys on their faces. They merge their faces into the mom and the baby. I think it was Jeremy and Ryan that they put on there.
Okay. All right. So this picture right here.
Don't show it for too long because we might get hit for just showing.
Yeah, I might get hit for copyright. This picture right here tells you everything. It's the female orc being comforted by her husband orc or what the hell ever.
Whatever.
This doesn't. It's like you said. We know what the orcs are. Embodiment of evil. They are hideous and horrible.
It's not a representation of any race. It is a representation
of
evil.
Do they feel the need to humanize these people or whatever? Why
Moral
do
relativism
we need for them? Yes, like you need to feel bad for these people Even though
It,
they're evil, you
it
need to feel bad for them.
it's
It's so
because the Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant is out there
incredible.
in Hollywood making stuff after sacrificing all those women to Harvey Weinstein,
Right.
and she's like, but I'm the good one. We're the moral people, and we have to teach you what morality actually is. So sacrificing children and women to the evil altars of whatever is the moral thing to do. They're trying to teach you that through all of these things because they're trying to get rid of what is good and evil.
Well, it reminds me of at Star Wars Celebration last year when the guy who played Smilo Ren is like, there's no evil in Star. There's no good or
Right.
bad,
No, that is the
right?
dumbest thing
It's
ever.
all a point of view, right? There's no good or bad in Star Wars, and it's the same kind of thing. Like these people trying to convince you this shit. Real quick, I did want to highlight something War Chest said, which I think is hilarious. He said, "I'm really excited to see how the relationship unfolds between Sauron and that ring-making Liberace elf." And yes, we're probably gonna get some pseudo romance, the first ever, gay romance in a Tolkien story between Sauron and of course a lot of these writers they misuse the word seduce.
Yes.
What scares me is when they want to talk about Vader seducing Luke to the dark side, and I'm thinking these
Yes.
people think he's trying to sexually seduce his own son somehow.
Right.
Like that's how they would portray this shit,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. Here we're gonna get Sauron seducing Celebrimbor, and they're going to turn it
Give me the meat
into a
and give it to me raw.
representation. Yeah, it's going to give me the yes, give it to me raw. So, but they're going to turn it into a representation story when it has no place whatsoever. You can see it coming a mile away. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, on stage not too long ago, they
Yes.
at San Diego, they kind of went over it and even said, about
Maybe
representation.
you've already
And
seen
maybe
it.
you've already seen it, and everybody's like, "Woo!" And I'm like, all 15 fans of this show. And then uh, let's see, real quick. Eric Thurman says, "I've always fancied myself an elf." Um, at one time going to Ren Fair and stuff, I'd see the elven folks off in the woods, looking at you, and you'd be like, "What was that? Who was that? Who's that? Who's that girl over there?" How have I fancied myself an elf? Or what? I don't know what I fancy myself. I always
Hey,
fancy
when I
myself
weighed
actually as the
165 pounds, I
knight.
probably would have said yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Now I'm the out of work overweight knight that got thrown out of the round table or something like that, for drinking too much or something crazy. I don't know. What is this real quick? Oh yeah. Frostbite says poor orcs just trying to start a small business in peace. Yeah, it is sad. They're trying to humanize him and give you a. I mean, look, they're trying to take Sauron and make you sympathize with the character, and turn him into someone that you can root for, which I think is it's
Yeah.
classic Hollywood, though, right? Yes, Night of the Eating Table. That would be me, and my waistline. So anyway, mainstream media is turning on it. They all the reviews. If you look them up, it don't take you long to figure out that right now it is in fashion for them to turn on this show. When
Well,
just 2
they
years
have
ago
to.
they were
If they want
calling
to
you
have
a
any
bigot if you didn't
relevancy,
like it. Yes,
if they want to have any relevancy moving forward, they have to really look at the way the wind is blowing.
yes,
And they're like, okay, so we should probably find out what they're actually saying and, skate that line. And you can see it with even red letter media. They're trying to skate the line these days instead of being
I hate
as
that,
outspoken as
man.
they used to be. Now they're saying the exact same things people that they criticize are saying. They're just saying it more politely or whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody's saying the same thing. You're just wanting to hear it a different way. You're wanting
Yeah.
to hear it through your perspective, and that is what it is. But
Well,
people are going to have to start saying this stuff is not good. We need better.
absolutely, and I'm hoping that they will continue this trend, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I think they will because you lose enough money, you shut down enough shows, you shut down enough studios, you shut down enough game developers, you shut down enough newspapers, websites. Eventually people learn their lesson. There's only so much DEI money to go around, and eventually that
And
well
it
starts
doesn't
to
cover the
dry up,
losses.
and it doesn't cover the losses. Speaking of which, Real quick, just wanted to bring this little story up for some of you that don't know, and then we're going to jump into some sci-fi talk, which I can't wait. So I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with the hero shooter game Concord. Concord spent 8 years in development, $250 million, I think, went into making this game. I've been following this story for quite some time. This is an IGN article that came out a few hours ago. Concord is suddenly getting pulled offline with Sony promising full refunds. Now, this game just launched a week, 2 weeks ago at best. August 23rd. And on September the 6th, the game will be pulled offline. And I'm going to show you a few
the media
pictures
pushed
of the
this
characters.
game.
I'm going to show you a few pictures of the characters.
And the media pushed this game and protected this game and told everybody how great it was going to be.
Yep.
And you looked on the servers today, and there were 61 players.
Yes. So I'm going to show you a few pictures here of some of the characters that are. Let's see here. We'll pull that down. Show you some of the characters. And again, now this is a hero shooter, and so you're talking about a crowd of people. You're talking about a fan base of people who stay up all night drinking Red Bull and Mountain Dew, eating Doritos, getting high, whatever, playing Call of Duty and Fortnite and stuff like that. So your fan base is not really going to be trying to go after characters like this.
Well, they want representation, so that might be them.
So few of those. so few. Or let's see here. How about this character right here? Let's see. Any of you guys want to play as this character here?
Is that shown off?
ODB. I don't know. It's a woman, I think.
Oh, okay.
A very confident, shoulder padded woman, but
put a headband on her and look like
How about my favorite unidentifiable, could be anybody you want to be. How about this one? Yes, because I want to play as the 300-pound somebody. I don't even know where to go with this. This is who's your target demographic is. Just take a wild guess, Matthew. Who plays those kind of games?
I don't
shooter
know.
Games, Call of Duty, Fortnite. Just take a wild guess who your demographic probably is, and what age group might they be?
You got to be 14 to 16 years old, male.
Probably even maybe let's say 9 to 17.
Okay.
16, okay.
Yeah.
I would dare say most 9 to 17-year-olds do not want to play as one of those characters.
I've got a friend to this day. He still loves playing the hot chick versions of all the characters on screen because he likes to watch them move in third person.
Okay, hello. Know your audience. Okay, know your audience. And so you can see, and here's the deal, right? Like a lot of people are like, how could you possibly, root for this? How could you be happy about it? It's not that I'm happy about it. I'm not happy when people lose their jobs. I'm not happy when people, work on a project for 8 years of their life, and then it comes out and like 2 weeks later it's being taken offline. I'm not happy about that. The problem is the beginning of it, where it starts. And there's a disease right now infecting modern gaming with these companies, these consulting companies that are getting paid millions of dollars to come in and go through people's scripts through their video games, their character lists of their video games. They are telling these companies to change this character, whether it's gender, race, whatever it is, sexuality. They're changing the script so that the script has no uses of he or she in it now. If you go play a modern video game, so often you'll see that it says they. Every character, even in Star Wars, you have an evil character in Star Wars who's chasing down a bad guy or bad woman, and the Imperial officer will tell so and so that they need to track them down. They down. Where are they? Who are they? Find them, not find him, find her, find whatever. And you see this dialogue just permeate these games, and people are tuning out. They're tuning out. And
We have
there's
language
no
for a reason.
surprise. Yes.
We have
There's
language for a reason, and it is to describe characteristics. It's so we can communicate, because if you take those out of it, then you can no longer communicate effectively.
I'm telling you, one of my favorite things to do, and I'm telling you, one of my favorite things to do is watch a person struggle to try to describe the black bartender girl that I work with. She is awesome. I love that girl to death. But when somebody's like, I have two girls that I work with at work, okay? And one of them's white, one of them's black. And I love watching people try to squirm and figure out how to describe the person they're trying to ask me. What's her name again? Well, what does she look like? There's only four of us. There's two dudes and two girls. What does she look like? Oh, she's not real tall, but she has certain shirts she likes to wear, and and they'll just squirm and squirm and squirm. And finally, I'm just like, oh, you mean the black girl, Elise? Oh yeah, she's awesome. She don't care. Nobody cares. But people are so scared, and so intimidated. They're scared to say the wrong thing for fear that they'll be ostracized and canceled. That's what changing language does. Now, I'm not saying there aren't certain words out there and phrases that maybe, of course, but
absolutely.
Come on, like he or she,
right?
Housewife, grandfather, grandmother. Those are words that type of group is not fond of. They do not care for words like grandfather, grandmother, he, she. It's fascinating to me. Mother, right? Mother is a no word.
Yeah.
I just that and so this change of language.
Well, it all goes back to
into
1984.
And
the Newspeak Dictionary, and how they keep rewriting the Newspeak Dictionary. And if you're not up to speed, then you are socially unacceptable, and you will be docked on your social credit score, which is what China and everybody else is trying to move towards.
It's a scary thing. And look, we're not going to dive deep into it here, and I don't want to go on a rant because I'll get started and I'll get fired up, and I don't want to do that.
All right. Next topic.
I will say that yes, Concord is being canceled. So if you are out there and you purchased Concord, and I can believe that none of you in our audience did, then you are eligible for a refund, and I highly suggest you go get it. Yes, that game died as soon as it came out, and for those that spent 8 years of their life making it, I'm sorry, but make a better game.
Well,
all right.
Stand up for your principles. Stand up for what is right and what will actually be successful.
Yes.
Those things are important, because if your voice isn't heard, then it will never be heard. And
never,
ever growing and oppressive corporations that are creating the new feudal society. And so, anyway.
Yeah. And looking at the chat, Frostbite has definitely gone on a he is definitely fired up about that. I real quick, and I'll highlight a couple of things. I do appreciate this, because it really doesn't say anything bad. Wraith May says Space Marine 2, and wow, that's what I identify with. And you know what? Exactly. More power to you. I could care less what somebody identifies with. I think the fact is that it's we've seen that you need to know your audience.
Yep.
Whether it's TV, movies, video games, whatever, you need to know your audience. That's all there is to it, really. And I think with a game like that, they really didn't know their audience. And that's interesting too, because Frostbite says a lot of women here in Australia hate people use the words chicks or referring to the wife as the missus. And I find that interesting, because I never really thought anything was wrong with the missus. It's a classic Southern kind of term, although it probably didn't originate out of the South, but yeah, that's a term that I've not really heard anybody hear so much. Now, chicks, yeah, whatever. We had a group called the Dixie Chicks, man, and then I think it was really cool until they criticized George Bush. I could care less about that, but evidently country radio did not care for it. All right, so let's get into some Terminator Zero. How about it? Let's dig in.
Dun. Dun
Uh,
dun
go,
dun.
go, go. Dude, holy moly, man. So if any of you out there have not had a chance to watch this on Netflix, Terminator Zero. Um,
Yeah.
holy moly. You sent me the message just like Terminator Zero. I think that's all it
Yeah.
said. Maybe, it didn't even
Yep.
really say anything else. And I was like, okay, you've got me. I'm like a fish on a hook. You've got me. If it says Terminator, I'm interested. And I've been very disappointed,
Mhm.
mostly in the last many, many years.
Yep.
So you've got me. I'm on the hook. I have Netflix. Um, man, oh man, I wasn't prepared for that. What
Yeah.
a did you get a chance to watch all of it?
Yeah. I finished it. Finished it
Okay, great.
yesterday.
Yeah, okay, okay. So,
So when I
hell
texted
of a
him that
show.
when I texted him that I had only seen the first episode, and I was wowed by the first episode so much that I'm like, oh, this has so much potential, and I've been hearing good things about it. So I texted him and I said, we got to pay attention to this.
Dude, you are so right. And I don't think there's enough attention being paid to it in the media, in the mainstream media, in maybe
Well,
little corners here and there.
there's
Uh,
more button topics right now, and James
right.
Cameron and everybody else has flushed Terminator down the toilet so
That's true.
hard in the past couple years that nobody really cares about it.
It's
And then
hard to
this
it's hard
comes
to have
this comes
faith
out of
in it.
nowhere. This thing came out of nowhere,
I had
and
no idea.
it dropped on August 29th, right, which is the day, right? And I
Yes.
thought that was brilliant, but
Yes.
nobody paid attention to it. And because Netflix drops everything all at once because they're stupid still, nobody will be talking about it. And if they're lucky, in the next week you'll have people talking about it, and then it'll be gone.
Man,
It's unfortunate.
I agree with you. It's today's world. It's the world we live in with consuming media and either binge watching or even shows that come out weekly. Even it's here and gone after 8 weeks or whatever. I know you get a little more press out of a show that comes out weekly, and I
Yeah.
like that model. But with something like this, that the episodes are only 20 minutes long, 22 minutes long, something like, if even, some of that, and 7 episodes, it would be difficult to do this weekly. I don't think it would gain enough steam for it to be worth it to them to draw it out. But regardless of either one of those ways that someone would watch it, this show is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's
And
really
it
good.
starts
And
off
Worcester,
right off
thank
the
you for
rails.
coming to support us. We really
Yes.
appreciate that. Definitely catch it when you get a chance to, because it's really good. And I'm joking with Pop. The one criticism that I had is that they use some special lighting techniques. So there's highlights that send a certain type of message to a certain type of crowd, but none of that stuff is really in the movie or in the show. So it's really
Yeah.
hilarious.
No. But yes, I got that. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. But very well written, very well
Yes.
drawn. It's an interesting concept.
Yep.
Someone asked me, I was telling a couple about it who golly, they let me use their Max account. They let me use their Apple TV account. Like I've given them one of mine. Like, but this is what they do. They watch every streaming service. They've got them all, and so they turn me on, or they tell me about shows here and there, and I tell them about ones. And I was telling them about this one last night, and it's hard because somebody says, "Well, is it a continuation? Is it a new take? What is it
Yeah.
about?" It's kind of like, well, no, it's a new take, right? In a way,
In a way.
and
So
the
this is
premise
the
of
thing.
it being AI driven with today's world makes a
Yep.
lot of sense when you start putting those pieces together and thinking about it from those terms. It is a little bit, leave your disbelief at the door in
Yeah.
a way, with a part of it, with one of the main characters, in
Yeah.
it, but and kind of his interactions the
Yep.
whole season.
So
Um,
I kind of described it like this. Describing the setup, basically, right? You've got this woman from the future, and she's fighting the Terminators, and she decides that she's going to go back in time and complete this mission. We don't really know what the mission is, but she's
yeah,
going after this one guy, right? And so she's as she's preparing to go back in time, the Terminators attack and they start wiping out her entire encampment. And so everybody's dying, and she goes back in time. And then you meet this father, and he's got 3 kids and a nanny. And he seems kind of disconnected from his family. He seems to care or be very strict with certain rules, but he's very obsessed with his work. And his work is this AI project. And he seems to know that Skynet is a problem and it's coming. And he seems to have known that these things are happening because he's having dreams. And then that's kind of how the story starts. And where it goes, I think, is really fascinating. The philosophy, the thought process behind everything. The Japanese do a really good job with this philosophical stuff.
Absolutely.
And they throw it all in there, and things change throughout the episodes. And you're like, oh wow! And then you're like, you're engaged, you're hooked, and you want to find out the full story on all of this stuff. And when you do, it's pretty darn satisfying.
Yeah,
and it's not a taking away from Terminator. It doesn't take away from anything that's been done before. It adds to the world. It creates a different spin on things and has potential to have long-term ramifications that are very interesting. And it's something else to play out in the world. And it all takes place in Japan. So it doesn't affect anything that's happening with Sarah Connor and all that stuff, because that stuff is still happening, will happen, has happened, whatever. But it takes this as like Terminator Salvation in a way. Okay, you may like it or not. I thought it was kind of interesting. But Terminator 1, Terminator 2, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, Terminator Zero, and Salvation are the Terminator movies that I actually enjoy watching.
Yeah, it is very satisfying, like you said. It's so hard these days to either you see an ending coming a mile away, and so when you do get there, you're kind of, oh, you could have called that one, 4 episodes ago, 6 episodes, whatever it is, or the writing is so bad, or the acting. Look, a lot of it, I watched it both with Japanese audio, and I also watched some of it with the English audio.
I didn't know there was an English option. I didn't even
there
bother.
is, and it's good. It's good acting. The acting is actually good in it. It really is. Hey, that's Back to the Future, baby, Back in Time. I love that song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
So yeah, I highly encourage anybody to watch it. I don't want to spoil it. I will say this, and I am a little bit curious because on Rotten Tomatoes it's a 92%. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10. IMDb, it's a 7.1 out of 10. This is better than a 7, man. Like I don't.
Yep.
This had me going episode to episode, paying attention to the dialogue. It is gory.
Yeah.
It is. It has gore in it. It is Terminator through and through. It has some funky stuff, man.
I think that's the problem for some of these.
Yes,
is the oversensitivity to violence and the fact that they're watching it while texting and listening to YouTube videos or on Instagram or whatever. I think
you're right. It's so hard to get people to just dig in.
Yep.
And just watch something without being on their phone or like listening to us and doing something. And look, I get it. All right. Cause I do it myself. We've been trained to do that now.
It's not spoon feeding you anything.
No, absolutely not.
It's telling a story, and you have to determine what the philosophical ramifications of this are. And that is what good storytelling does.
And when it ends, right? Because this, and again, not going to spoil anything, but when it ends, there are questions that are posed to you as the viewer and what you've just seen. And yes, like there are misdirections and there are things that happen in it, but it does pose some interesting questions to the viewer. And you're right. The Japanese are so good. Mm-hmm. They're so good at telling these kinds of things. They're even the Witcher anime that was done, 3 years ago or whatever it was. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was good enough. But this is way better than a 7 out of 10. I can
Oh
tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean,
It is
the Ghost in the
fantastic.
Shell series standalone complex is one of my favorites
Yeah.
because it brings forth a lot of these turn of the century concepts that are very prescient, even more so every day. So it's
Yes,
interesting.
yes, and but yeah, if you like Terminator, even if you don't like Terminator, you don't have to know Sarah Connor. You don't have to know any of those characters. You can watch this. You know, is there lore that it helps that you have? Yes, to understand the bigger picture here, but as a
Even
standalone
though I
story,
believe that there is one crossover character somehow.
I do too, and I text you about it, but I don't
Yep, I
know
know.
for sure.
I fully agree with that
I thought
assessment.
that, yeah, I thought that's who that was, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't explicitly say it, but it makes sense, right?
Yep, I think it is.
And Todd C's in the house. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you too. Thank you, brother, for stopping by. Anybody hit that like button, subscribe. I would tell you to share the stream if you want to, but I know that's a lot, a lot to do there. But definitely the likes help, and obviously everybody being here and hanging out with us, I appreciate. It's always fun. And then obviously talking to you and about stuff like this, Terminator Zero. But there's also another sci-fi thing you turned me on to.
Oh yeah, this.
Um,
I don't know how I found this. It
I
just
don't
came up,
either.
and I said, "Hey, what is this?" And I said, "I got to check it out."
Yeah.
And it's 20 minutes long, and it's better than Alien Romulus.
Yes. Yes, it is. And I'm trying to load for some reason my stream deck's not working.
If you guys have been seeing me on any streams in the past couple of days, you know I've mentioned it. But
Uh
it's
yes, this is man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. This thing is fantastic. It is also an anime. I was
well, it's animation. It's not
animation.
anime.
Yeah, it's not anime, but animation. It's labeled as anime. It's Oda
Yeah,
King animation, but it says anime horror. But anyway, so this is called Alien Monday. And man, oh man, you can find it on YouTube. It is let's see if I can get the volume down.
uh,
For reason not giving me my controls here. Uh
it's I
maybe
enjoyed it.
I'll
It's
pull it
really
up.
good. It's 20 minutes or 22 minutes or whatever it is long. It's an episode of an average half-hour TV program, and
There we go.
it takes place over a couple of hours on a spaceship out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, it fills those alien tropes, but it was really well done, I thought. The
Absolutely, man. This thing, yeah, it's a breeze. Just like Terminator Zero, this is a breeze to get through. It is good looking animation. Um, the story is good. It's just a quick kind of little thing you can watch, but yeah, you're right. It does this IP better than several of the movies we've seen. Just
yeah,
in this
I
short
mean,
17-16 minute thing.
so what I find fascinating about this is that this takes all of the same tropes that we know, puts a slight spin on it, and throws it out there without doing disservice to the previous lore, without trying to copy and paste like Romulus did. Romulus was a copy and paste. I want to copy this from here and paste it in here, copy this from here and paste it into there. And they're throwing it all together, and they're somewhat disrespectful, I think, in terms of how they did things. And then they throw in a bunch of Ridley Scott's crazy neogenesis of the alien species, which I don't really like. This sticks to the basics of Alien and
Yes,
Aliens and
just
what we know of
basic.
those two movies. And yeah, it's gory. It's got its stuff to it. It's got that horror suspense feel to it. You may predict what's going to happen before it happens,
Yeah,
whatever.
sure.
But it has enough of the tropes, but enough of something that's different that I found it engaging, more engaging than Romulus. And while some of the alien movies actually bring forth new concepts, scientific or science fiction wise, this one doesn't, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah, no, it's great, and that's all I'm gonna show of it. I do think the animation is really good. I think that
Oh yeah.
they,
I said what I found fascinating was that I could tell that they'd use old school animation techniques to make it look like it's CGI. So they move the camera
Yes.
around in certain ways on a couple of shots when she's walking through the corridor or whatever, that makes it look like they're trying to do CGI camera pan type of things, but it was all done with what appears to be cell shaded type of old
Cel-shaded,
school
yeah.
techniques of two-dimensional
Yes.
animation. And so the techniques that they were using, I thought were really interesting too. So yeah, I don't know. I appreciate those types of things.
Man, no, dude, I really though, it was a good watch. Like I said, it's 17, it's 17 minutes, and that's with credits. It's really not even that long, but it's something you could breeze through. But it just reminds you, you can keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right. Keep it simple. Is this little YouTube, is this thing that's YouTube Alien Monday is what it's called, and there's a reason why it's called that.
Yeah.
Is this thing gonna knock your socks off? Are you gonna be like, oh, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen? No, but what it did for me is it just kind of reminded me why I really still enjoy that premise and that IP. And that's the last thing I want to see. It'd be the last thing that you did see. But like the premise of it and the IP, I still love it, and I hate so much that it's just been put through the ringer, and all the different ideas. It's kind of like Predator too in that respect. But with Prometheus and just
I agree with some people that Predator needs to go to the home world, and
I would like to see that.
some of that. I thought Predators had a good idea of a hunting world that they brought people to. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but Predator, Predator 2, Predators, and I don't know, Guilty Pleasure is AVP, the first one.
You know what? So that's so funny you said that, because I agree with you. That is kind of a guilty pleasure for me too. And I know that movie is, widely panned as far as
but it's one of those things that it tried to do something kind of interesting. And to me, it's fascinating because the main character of that movie is based off of the main character from the very first Dark Horse graphic novel, Aliens vs. Predator. And she was on a different planet, and it was a different scenario, but it was the same archetype, and she did something similar. She had the Predator helmet, and she had the little alien blood insignia on her Predator helmet that she used. I mean, they used a lot of those tropes from that original comic in that movie. And I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Lance Hendricks in there as the Wayland guy and all that kind of stuff. So, I
actually agree. AVP is kind of a guilty pleasure. I did like it. I bought it on DVD actually when it came out, I kind of like it as well. I know it doesn't get that much credit, and I understand, but I did. I really enjoyed it. Nonetheless, this little YouTube,
it was fun
thing here, it really fun. Glad you turned me onto it. I'm going to try to turn some other people onto it as well. I did want to show something real quick that Frostbite sent me, because he just reminded me of this. Mom, what did you think of The Acolyte? It's great. Your parents are dead. This is using Arnold and John Connor.
Can you believe that that's Vasquez?
I know. It's amazing. God, Vasquez. Yes, Frostbite. I definitely saw that, and I did appreciate that. So real
that's
quick,
a deep cut. You get that one. Dark Horse AVP was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Oh, okay. I think I do.
Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Yes. damn. Dude, Borchest will break some stuff out on you that you gotta like. He'll make you think sometimes. He sends me stuff all the time, man, and it's hilarious. But yes, the dude, yeah, never mind. I can't even. Some of it, I just can't. I can't even.
Yeah.
I want to show them on here too because it's some great great memes and stuff. He sends me videos, man, like amazing shit. There might be a couple of them I could show for sure. So real quick, we'll jump into this here. This is the gift that keeps on giving with the Acolyte.
She just won't stop, will she?
It is a nonstop blame fest. I think everybody knows by now the reason why this show got canceled is because no one watched it. The people that supposedly are doing an online petition, so it doesn't, so they do a season 2, didn't even show up to watch the show. So
yeah, no, it's clear that those people didn't show up to watch the show. The show cost them so much money that they can't fathom making another season because it cost way too much, and it didn't produce anything.
Even if they got this online petition, what does it have, like 50,000 signatures, something stupid. Even if it got 250,000 signatures, whatever, that's not enough. It doesn't matter. And those very same people didn't watch the show when it was on, so it doesn't matter. But again, we have the star who I'm sorry, whether she is directed or whatever. From an actor's standpoint,
she is a rich, entitled, spoiled brat who's never done anything her entire life and has lived the high life and is now thinking, they don't like my show because they're blah 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 blah.
It's unbelievable because yes, she well-to-do. This is not a girl who's been oppressed and suppressed and held down in her life at all. This is a young actress who can't act, who has the same expression, whether she's angry, sad, happy, whatever. And Legend series, how
maybe
you doing,
she
man?
can act, and she just hasn't had the right director or writer. I mean,
man,
we don't know. This is the only thing I've ever seen her in.
Yeah, look, I get it. I just, man, okay, all right. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's see her in something else. But I guarantee, how's she gonna get another job based off of this? I don't know.
Well, based on the fact of her social media track, her interviews, and her diss track, and everything else, nobody's going to want to hire her to do anything because she's the toxic one here.
Yes, and so here's the deal: regardless of whether or not you like the show, if you didn't like the show, most of us didn't like the show, and the reason why we didn't like the show, it was the lowest rated Star Wars show that on Disney Plus, is not because it had a black female lead. It's not because it had a LGBTQ representation. It's not because it had a person of color who played a Sith character or Asian or whatever he is. It's not because of the guy, Squid Game guy, that we don't like Asian people or whatever.
Actually, everybody said until the later episode that he was the best part of the show.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing about it, the writing sucked. They spent $180 million to make this turd. Nobody watched it. People checked out. It was so bad. And the people that did make money off it are YouTube creators who want a season 2 so they can continue to make money off of it. But Disney made no money off this. This is such a bomb. And yet here we have the lead actress she has an 8-minute Instagram post that she did, blaming hyper-conservative bigots, alt-right bigots. I guess that's you and me. We didn't like the show, but because of these different people that are in it, then obviously
they can't even define that term.
No,
they have no idea.
No, they're buzzwords.
Right means it's a buzzword to try and be a fascist dictator and categorize people into categories that they don't belong into.
It's just gaslighting, put them into box. It's just trying to get people fired up. And here, I mean, just to give you some of the quote here. There's been a rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept and no one had even seen it.
That's before you were hired, so you wouldn't know about that.
And I love how the rap also, it's because this, obviously you need to know this, Matthew, when you read this article, is that after that quote, it says, when it was still just a concept and no one had seen it, the black queer actress said, that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language toward us.
So why do I need to know that she's black
A
and
black
queer?
queer act. No, you don't need to, but they need to
What
put
does
that
that
in
have to do
there.
with any of the statements that she made? Is that supposed to provide it more weight because she's
Yeah,
saying it?
right.
Actually, what it does is it takes away from it because
Yes,
it shows that she is biased against people already, that she
oh,
has
yes,
a preference, a bigotry already, and now she's exploiting that bigotry.
yes. It just. I mean, and there's some other stuff in here too. I mean, look, this really affected me when I first got the job because it's not something even I anticipated it happening. It's not something you can fully understand what it feels like until it's happening to you. You know, I guess just like it happened to Billy D. Williams, right, or John Boyega, all the hate that they got, they couldn't show their face in public, or
Hey,
I
do you
guess,
remember Ahmed Best?
yeah, you remember him? How it
Remember
was all
Ahmed
the
Best? Do you know
fans
where
on
he got the
Twitter in
hatred from?
2000, in 1999,
Do you know
when
where
there
he
was.
got the hatred from?
Yeah, he got it from the. Go ahead and tell me. Go right ahead, because I know. Go ahead.
Because it wasn't from the fans. It wasn't from the people that came out to watch Star Wars. It wasn't from the community. It was only from the media. The
Yes.
media came out and attacked him, and they threw all these racial epithets at him, and they did everything to him to terrorize that man. And so he has no animosity towards the fans because he knew that it was the media that was doing that and trying to manipulate him and not the fan base. And that's what these people are confusing because people are telling them that it's the fan base or it's these alt-right people when it's
Right.
not. It's the freaking media that is playing you like a flute.
It's the same old song and dance, and you're starting to see people wake up to it, right? Because, you know, 4 years ago, a lot of sympathetic ears, a lot of
Yep.
people trying to be empathetic, trying to lend their sympathy, trying to be, show kindness. Not that they didn't show kindness before, but now you have to go out of your way to show kindness, and you have to make sure people know that you're showing kindness, right? So that way you don't get canceled. But here we are 4 years later, okay, and people are starting to go, yeah, it's not the people that didn't like the show didn't like it because it was garbage. And
Yeah.
just like Three Star Draw says here, we didn't like it because it was awful and had a few good moments that the ethnic characters delivered, right? Like your Manny Jacinto was actually pretty good as the Sith character. And Squid Game guy, his English being rough. I mean, it was tough to get through some of those scenes.
But I mean, those two
But
characters, those two actors, best thing in the entire show. I
I
mean, Carrie Ann
agree.
Moss is great
Yes,
normally too, but she didn't have much of a part. But those two men were the best things in the show
I
in
agree.
terms of
Yes.
acting quality.
Yeah.
And they get thrown under the bus through the whole
So
thing.
so here's the other thing, Matthew. This is what kills me, right? So it says here Stenberg has been vocal about the racist comments and hate she received since the show's premiere in response to the intolerable, in quotations, intolerable racism she received in her
What kind of
DMs.
racism is tolerable?
Well, and on top of that, where are the receipts?
Yeah.
I mean, every time somebody claims that in their DMs and in their messages and all these people dropping racism and all that stuff, but we never see those messages, do we? We don't ever see photographs, and if we do, the ones that were shown didn't say anything about race. The ones I saw, and I think we even maybe discussed them. The
Yep.
the, the ones I saw didn't say anything about race. They could have been about anybody. So
Yep.
so we never get to see receipts for this stuff. We never get to see people who say this stuff actually show you the actual messages. They only say that it happened. And
Yeah.
look,
I mean, that's what happened with
I'm
Gina
sorry.
Carano.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And then she put out that diss track on Juneteenth, which was just brutal to watch and embarrassing in my
Yep.
opinion. And is she a pretty girl? Yes, she is. Was that embarrassing? Yes. Yes, that shit was embarrassing. And if I was Disney, good God, heaven forbid Gina Carano, you know,
If we still
uh
had the studio
get
system or the
out of here.
studio gave a care or had a backbone at all, they would have stopped that from happening. They would have gotten onto her saying, "Hey, you need to shut up right now and calm down before we flame these fires," because that's what Disney had to do with Snow White. right? Rachel Zell,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
As,
No, they got her to shut
and
the hell
then
up.
when they had a firm date to release the Snow White thing, she comes out and starts talking again, and they're like, "No, stop!" And it's too late because it's already out there. And she any hype that had been built up from postponing the release for over a year has now evaporated again because she went out there and did the same thing that this woman is doing and destroying her own property by opening her mouth and saying things that are going to turn off an entire section of the audience.
And look, man, like everybody has their point, right? There's no good, there's no evil, right? It's all your point of view, right? But here's my thing. This last paragraph here, and they put the whole video. If any of you are interested, you could go on X and find it very easily. You could Google it if you want to watch the 8-minute video of her talking basically about this. I just want to let those people know out there who supported us in that way and support us vocally, which wasn't many of them because they didn't watch the fucking show. Despite and in the face of all the vitriol that we received and the targeted attack, I would say we received by the alt-right, just that you are loved and appreciated, and it made this job all the worthwhile. So it's to me, it's irresponsible.
Yep.
And it's dangerous.
Yep.
It's irresponsible. It's dangerous. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on both sides.
Yep.
But we far see more and more often people, especially actors, people that are in a position, and again, this is someone who has not struggled in their lifetime.
Nope.
And saying that it's alt-right people and conservative bigots who got this show canceled. No, the show didn't get renewed, first and foremost. It didn't get canceled, by the way. It got renewed. It didn't get renewed. And no one watched it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
And Jeremy Griggs brought up another great point, and he said all she had to say was, "Thank you for those of you who supported us. We had a wonderful time making the show. I'm very disappointed that it didn't get renewed, but I just want to, heap praise or thanks on all of those who have supported us through this adventure. I look forward to your support in my next endeavor." Boom, done. You're out.
It amazes me that there are people out there who just blindly disregard facts, disregard like the actual truth of a situation, that are not open-minded enough.
Didn't you know facts and truth are harmful?
They will hurt your feelings. It's just amazing to me though that like in this situation, like any other actor, anybody out there, anybody watching at home right now that knows anything about that show can understand why it's not getting a season 2. So what are they going to do? They're going to give Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, another $180 million to bring in a show that nobody watched, that isn't making money and getting new subscriptions on Disney Plus. Is that financially responsible when Disney lost over $2 billion last year? $2 billion in 2 consecutive quarters last year? Is that fiscally responsible to give somebody another $200 million to make a piece of shit? No, that's why it got canceled. Not because a bunch of neckbeards and shit like that, alt-right trolls, got the show canceled. We didn't. I'm not. You're not talking to me. I don't know who the fuck that is. But I didn't get your show canceled. Nope. If you wanted your show not canceled, then show up and watch it. But like so many other things, like Concord and all this other bullshit, they don't support this stuff. So it falls by the wayside. That's what happens. It's called capitalism. It's called business, right? You don't do business on feelings. You do it off of green, son. I mean, good.
Services provided, services rendered.
Oh my goodness. And people just disregard the concept. It amazes me. But anyway, let's look at the chat real quick, since we kind of went on about that just a little bit. Let's see. We had War Chest's his AVP bomb comment. Todd C says, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so I'm impartial to everything, but I think it'd be easier if Disney stuck to making things for kids. And yes, the problem is the stuff they're making for kids has been called into question.
Is not for kids.
It's not for kids. And
Yeah.
that's the sad fact, is that, yes, I agree with you. It's a family company. And what they are doing and have been doing for several years is anti-family. And there are those within that company who are very open about their not so secret gay agenda and other things that they've had.
Well, I mean, the Acolyte is kind of like the pinnacle of this anti-family product, right? Because you've got, parents who are trying to protect their kids, but then let their kids make their own decisions. And you want 8-year-olds to make logical, rational decisions when that process doesn't get developed in the brain until your mid to late 20s.
Yes, the show revolves around allowing someone who's 8 or 10 years old to make their own decision about where they want to go, what they want to do.
Complete life direction altering decisions.
We're not talking about
they
choosing
do not have the capacity to make.
Yes, no, we're not talking about if you want to live with dad or mom after a divorce. Like, we're not talking about you're still a county away or down the street or going to the same school. Or no, we're not talking about that. Like, the show literally is about that, and there's 2 or 3, 4 messages in there, and I don't want to get it all up talking about the show, but nonetheless, so the problem is the content they're making for children is like treating children as if they're 24 years old, right? Like, no, you need to treat 8-year-olds like they're 8 years old. No matter how many cell phones they have and how many tablets they have in their hand, they're still 8 years old. War chest. I heard Colin Kaepernick is going to protest until Acolyte gets season 2. Who knows? Ronnie Trickshot in the house. Good day, mate. To you, and being late, better late than never, baby. It is
Thanks
all
for coming.
good. You working hard, man. I can't fault you for that, buddy. I appreciate you being here. And yes, 3-star draw from a certain point of view. Obi-Wan Kenobi when he didn't suck. I do like from a certain point of view. I like the Empire Strikes Back one. I have that one on audiobook. It is fun. It is cool. It does give different perspectives, but it doesn't try to shoehorn in other messaging. It might try to make you sympathize with an Imperial officer or a bounty hunter or something, but to me, that's a whole different ball game. That's a whole different thing. And Clint Jorgensen, really, real quick, I just want to say hey to Clint too, man. Disney Plus in the hole, 12 billion since it started. Yeah, it's in the hole. It's not making money. It's supposed to make money in 5 years. Still not making money.
It's supposed to make money this year.
Yeah,
it's only making funny money.
Yeah, from when it started, 2019 to now, it's supposed to make money. Bob Iger said it was going to make money, and he's still lying to the shareholders and pulling the wool over their eyes.
So he skated a lot of issues in the last investors call and tried to avoid talking about things because he didn't want to have to lie. But yeah, he's misleading them for sure.
100% misleading. yes. Yeah, Frostbite, kind of 3 in a row. Really, it's hard to look at facts sometimes. It's much easier to just hate or blame. I mean, bottom line is we see it time and time again. And I think people are tired of it. They're done with it. I think a lot of people are like, look, you could blame me all you want. And yes, I took that blame, even though I wasn't a part of that. And I sympathize and empathize. But now people are going, no, I had nothing to do with that, and I had nothing to do with the Acolyte getting not renewed. I watched the show. I watched every episode. I showed up for it. Am I the reason it got canceled? Am I the alt-right troll and the conservative MAGA asshole that got the show canceled since I fucking watched every episode like 3 times each?
Oof.
Get out of here. You talking
I watched
to me,
3 episodes.
Amanda?
I watched 3.
Hey, I'll give you credit for that shit, because trust me, it was hard to get through that shit. I had to take screenshots and all kinds of stuff. And after I made one video on it, I was like, man, screw this show.
Yeah.
So real quick, I did want to bring this up. So some of you, if you are sports fans, and I brought this up at the top of the show, this may be interesting to you, but it doesn't just have to do with sports. Right now, Disney and DirecTV are in a war. Disney has pulled all their channels off of DirecTV, and in a place like where I work at a bar that has several TVs and people that come out to watch sports, right before the LSU game, the other night. I think it was the LSU game or a Florida State game. I think the feed got pulled. All of the channels that Disney has on DirecTV, and this is ESPN 1 and 2, ESPN Deportes, ESPNU, ESPN News, ACC Network, SEC Network, Disney Channel, Disney Junior, Disney XD, FX, FX Movie Channel, FXX, Freeform, and National Geographic channels are all off of DirecTV right now. And for places of business, this is a pain in the ass.
Yep.
It is a big pain in the ass. So you have one side that's saying that so for Disney, they're saying that, DirecTV has lied. They have not engaged us in negotiations. DirecTV is basically wanting to offer more consumer-friendly packages. Instead of the bloated cable packages that people have been getting and having hundreds of channels they don't watch. Because, and for many of you may not know this. Maybe you do, Matthew. I don't know if you know this. So on your cable bill, if you have cable, you usually pay for like a sports package, like $12.99 a month for ESPN and like Fox Sports 1. And you also pay a decent amount of money for maybe some other channels that are more. Those channels are more expensive. They subsidize the smaller channels like Lifetime and Hallmark and channels that are not that expensive to put on the air. So in order to have those channels on television, people pay for the more expensive channels and packages, and that subsidizes those cheaper channels.
Yep.
And that's why you get 100 and something channels, because you pay X amount for ESPN, you pay X amount for this channel. When if you look at your breakdown, that's kind of how it breaks down. So anyway,
and it got easier when they went to digital too, because they split one channel into 4 channels.
Yes.
And that's how you got your 100 channels. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right? Like FX, now FXX, you got, FX this and that, whatever, right? So bottom line is that DirecTV is wanting to offer more consumer-friendly options, as in, this is their CFO or CEO talking. He said, pay for a package that's anywhere from 10 channels to 50 channels, not the 200 channels when you only watch 10, but you got to pay for all those other channels that you don't want to watch. And so the thing of it is when you do that, when you offer consumer-friendly pricing, Disney, you have to reduce the prices. That means Disney doesn't make as much money to be on DirecTV. It's really about the bottom line. Now, supposedly DirecTV has been negotiating with Disney, but Disney is saying that they've never even been able to get in touch, that they have no negotiations. So right before, let's see, here it is, right before the Florida State Boston College game at 7:30 p.m. on let's see, which culminates every next week, has some major. Okay. They pulled the feed. I think it was on Saturday. Yes, or Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, LSU, USC. That feed got pulled. Now, the NFL is also on ESPN, the Monday Night Football game.
Yep.
And that will not air on DirecTV until a deal is actually worked out. And and yes, Clint, it was LSU and USC on Sunday night. So so this is actually a big deal, and the reason why is because usually these things get resolved quickly. A lot of times because there's a lot of money lost. There's a lot of unhappy customers. People will cancel their ESPN Plus. They'll cancel their DirecTV, right, on both sides. Yep. Usually these things get they get settled. Disney's lost a lot of money over the last few years, and they, by having reduced packages offered, they don't make as much money. So I don't know when they're going to, if either side's going to give in on this, and that's going to cause a lot of problems, man, for sports fans in particular.
Yeah, and that's why we cut cable about 6-7 years ago, and have been watching YouTube TV for our local channels and some other stuff, and then pick up the streaming services a la carte, and we're paying $150 less than what we were for cable.
Yeah, and it's It's really interesting because about 10 years ago, there were 100 million cable slash direct TV subscribers in the United States alone.
Yep.
And that number is now 70 million
Yep.
because of all the people cutting the cord and going their own way. And so I think DirecTV saying, hey, look, man, people don't want to pay for 200 channels, and they have to pay so much for sports when they don't even watch sports in the first place. If you don't watch ESPN, but it makes up a bulk of your,
Yeah.
most expensive channels. And like Clint says here, only 40% of people watch sports, but it's the most expensive cable package. It's because these entities like ESPN and Fox and whomever, they bid billions of dollars for
Yep.
these TV packages, right? Like billions of dollars for these packages. And it's very expensive. Sports in particular is unbelievably expensive.
I mean, you look at Freevee or Tubi or some Pluto, and you look at what they offer, and you're like, well, I can watch all kinds of stuff on those, and I can pick up these other ones, and pay for them as I need to, and you get what you need, right? If you want to watch a specific team play, that can be more challenging. But you can go to some of these groups and get the package to watch that team play and see what that costs. And if that's worth it to you, then great. But it's becoming so exorbitantly expensive that people are like, I'll just, type it in on Google and refresh when I want to see the new score.
Man, and listen, there's other ways too. Use your imagination if you want to. I've done that in the past.
There's VPNs, there's high seas, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yes, and actually for Frostbite, who's in Australia, he says we can't even get Hulu in Australia. Can you not do a VPN and put that VPN like you're in the States or something like that, and then have access to Hulu there? Is that not possible? I always thought that was possible.
You should be able to through a VPN if that's something that you're really interested in, because you can always get a VPN in whatever country you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it just, through trickery, through smoke and mirrors, Frostbite. That's how I'm going to put it. Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. I need to watch The Prestige again. That movie's so awesome.
Oh gosh, top man. Yeah. Don't. Oh boy. Remember it was The Prestige, and what was the other one that came out at the same time? It was The Prestige, and then
I can never remember the name of the other one, but they were both great. But The Prestige just stands out.
Yes. No. Fan.
But no, I know exactly what you're talking about because they were both so good.
Yeah. It's they both basically came out. It's funny how sometimes The Illusionist.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. 3-star draw on the quick draw. Yeah, man. Both of those came out. And it's funny how that happens sometimes in Hollywood, where you'll have two movies come out that are basically about the same subject. So it just happens occasionally.
What do you mean? It doesn't just happen. White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen comes out the same year. A-Team and The Losers come out the same year. They literally filmed the end sequence in the same exact place for those two movies.
Yeah. Yes, actually, I do remember that. It just, I don't know. And some of these movies, a lot of people may not know, a screenplay or whatever it is may get shopped, and then somebody will take it, but then change enough of it that it becomes something else. And then that original screenplay or that original thing might get made. And then you end up with two entities, one of them that's just kind of a little bastardized deep. But yes, 3-star draw hits it again. Deep Impact and Armageddon. Perfect. That's another one, right?
Yeah. That was the first time I actually noticed that happening. And then from then on forward, I noticed it happening all over the place. But, we were discussing just this past weekend what we wanted to watch, and Armageddon came up, and my wife was like, oh, we haven't seen Deep Impact in such a long time. I said, yeah, but that's such an inferior movie. And it's like, well, but it's more accurate. I said, yeah, it's more accurate, but the other one's more fun.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, look, love me some Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, come on, man.
And what's his name? Fargo boy.
Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that guy.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. That's a good period of my life. War Chest, I have to agree with you here real quick. It is Ronnie Trickshot's fault that the whole DirecTV thing, he's responsible because he was late tonight.
Yeah.
And it's about time he finally takes responsibility for his actions. Oh my God, that dude is funny. All right. I couldn't help it. I saw that. I thought, oh, oh my God, he's done it again. I did want to say also a couple other things, man. Since we've rounded third base, we're heading home. Easy breezy show tonight. Everybody's hanging with us. I love it. I appreciate it. Hit the like button if you can, and for those of you maybe listening that aren't in the chat, throw me a sub. I say throw me a sub, but obviously follow Matthew on Instagram as well, and we're going to get to that here in a minute, so he can shout that out as we always do every week. But there was something I want to say. I know everybody's interested in Beetlejuice coming out. It's coming out soon. It's coming out on the 6th.
This weekend. Missed opportunity. They should have put it next Friday, because next Friday is Friday the 13th.
I heard somebody else. I did hear somebody else mention that, and you're right. I think, I don't know if it would be opening against something else, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if they just locked this in a long time ago. But I did want to I did just want to say that evidently it did very well in Venice. This is from August 28th, so this is a few days ago. But yeah,
from everything I've
well.
heard, people are saying positive things about it. More positive things than they have about other movies this past summer. So, it seems like there's going to be a little more traction with it. More and more people I talk to have been interested in seeing this movie, and I'm kind of surprised at some of them. But then, my wife, who's a big Beetlejuice fan, is like, yeah, well, we can wait on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? We're like huge Beetlejuice fans. My daughter loves that movie. And
that's interesting. I mean, look, I told you last week, like it didn't quite, hit me the same when I watched it last time with my son, the original movie, and growing up, I loved that movie. I really did, but evidently at Venice, it played very, 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 very well. So everybody really enjoyed it. It's a good sign, standing ovation.
I'm just saying,
we'll see.
I get paid this week. It would be a good weekend to go. But we just saw a different movie this past weekend.
Yes, you did, and I wanted to bring that one up quickly as well, because I do have something for it also, and real quick, just kind of looking at the chat, I did think this comment is. Oh man, this comment definitely Dreadnought. I wish I could. Your comment. Frostbite says guy struggles for decades to get great at his art and gets called the Fargo guy. Yeah, sorry, man. Listen, this brain's been through a lot, my friend, a whole bunch. It doesn't work as well as it used to. And then Todd C says, I threw this out there yesterday, Matt Punks on Film, batteries not included. That was a good one. I remember Batteries Not Included. A remake of Mr. Mom, maybe. And then Ronnie Trickshot. Sorry, War Chest. I'm headed to the boss's office to let him know that work has to wait for my mate's Disney podcast in America. Oh my God, that's just beautiful. Oh God. Oh, and I know 3-Star Draw is definitely going to be seeing the Beetlejuice this weekend. I've got a football game Friday night, which I'm going to have to figure out how to do my unfiltered streams a little differently. I've got Friday night football games, marching band season now, and then coming up soon, marching band contests. I've got to work on the other weekends, so it's full. Todd C says you can consider taking up the mantle and do a pop blender on film.
Hey, you know what? I have partial access to that channel, so we might be able to do something with it.
See. We'll see. We'll talk about it. We there's a couple things we do definitely need to do.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, so I saw that. I did see another story talking about the summer movie season. This summer's down several percentage over last year, quite a bit.
Well, but also
Um,
half the movies are coming out this year that came out last year.
yes, there's not
Literally
so
half the number of
yes.
movies.
And so I didn't want to really get into that article. It's
Yeah.
just the fact is that they're making less product. And for all those people that went on strike, all the writers, well, guess what? Uh,
Consequences.
not as many jobs out there to be had now. And you know,
Consequences.
and a lot of those people that were striking, man, I'm sorry, but some of those people, they're not actual writers. They may
Yeah.
consider themselves a writer, they may be part of the union, whatever it is, but they're not actually writing anything.
Yeah.
They just consider themselves, or 20,000 people. How many movies and TV shows are there that you can be credited on? It's just not enough product to go around.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yes, now you did see a movie recently,
Yeah.
you and your wife, and y'all have two different opinions about this movie. So let me bring this up real quick because I'm headed in here. uh
This will be a complicated topic, I think, but yeah.
maybe so. So I want to show on Rotten Tomatoes the Reagan movie. It's out in theaters right now.
Yeah.
Their popcorn meter. Now they just changed. They just
Yeah.
changed they just changed the meter. They call this the popcorn meter now. It's 98%, but it's 22% on the tomato meter.
Yeah.
Um it's too many meters, man. Is it good? Is it bad? From what I understand, this is getting like 1 star, 2 stars. That's
Yeah.
what I've seen, generally speaking. This and so yeah. What did you think? What did your wife think?
My wife came out of it and she liked it. She liked it a lot. She was, you know, engaged and all that with the movie, and she enjoyed it. I, on the other hand, was not as engaged. I felt that the writing lacked, the flow lacked. It's like a very amateurish attempt at filmmaking on a very complex topic, and they made it more documentary style, but they tried to put in those dramatic elements to get your heartstrings and get you moved, swayed towards it. It was kind of a propaganda piece, but you know, it's very complicated because they're going over a period of history that it's very controversial, and they're
Sure.
very one-sided on it, and they tell it from the Russian perspective. And so all of this is being told from a Russian spy that followed Reagan from his early days in Hollywood, and that's where the story starts. And they have flashbacks to him as a kid, and then they go through a
As an
large
actor,
swath of
maybe.
his life, and they try to tell a story that builds to something, and then it ends with his battle with Alzheimer's and his death, and some things like that go into it, and how Nancy responds to it. I don't feel like they did any of the people around him really justice. I don't think they did Nancy justice. I felt like they left some very important things out, such as George H.W. Bush's involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, since he was the head of the CIA and he was the one that manipulated things that Reagan didn't know about behind the scenes, that Reagan took full credit for, because he's like, okay, it's my fault, it's my responsibility because I'm the president. The buck stops here. So he took a leadership role in that fact, even though he knew nothing about that whole thing that was going on. And that was totally George H.W. Bush, because he was the only one that knew how to manipulate the CIA that way, because he was the head of the CIA. They didn't talk about that at all. The person that got to play George H.W. Bush wasn't that good, and he was only in like one scene, which I thought was another disservice. Is like, why didn't you have this? How did you get connected with him and how it affected the presidency? But I guess they wanted to tell the propaganda highlights kind of thing of the Reagan administration, and you have a limited amount of time, so I kind of understand that, but it wasn't told in an engaging manner. like I said, it was amateur storytelling. Like the editing could be different, the writing could be a little bit different. The things that you chose to show should have been different. Um, and so I was a little disappointed.
I have not seen it, so I can't, offer an opinion on that, and I mean, I think, we differ on some stuff. There's a lot of stuff we probably agree on. There's some stuff we differ. So I may watch it and have a different take on that. I plan to watch it. I'm not going to go see it. If it, on streaming, I'll probably pull it up and watch it when it comes out. Look, growing up in that era, Reagan was hard not to look at as like a person who, very patriotic. The country was very patriotic at that time, very pro-America.
Well, he did. He literally changed the world.
Well, absolutely, especially with the Berlin Wall
and the fall of the Soviet Union.
The fall of the Soviet Union, right? Absolutely,
and that's what this movie tries to convey. Ultimately, is this is a modern day retrospective look back at how Reagan dismantled the Soviet Union from the Soviet perspective, so to speak.
Okay.
And so that's the context is like raising up the next Russian political person. What do they need to be wary of? What are the things you need to look out for? And the spy is like saying, hey, I was following this guy from, the 1930s and 40s and following him through his entire career and his life. I knew he was a threat. Nobody listened to me until it was the mid 1980s before they actually started listening to me.
That's interesting. And he was trying to think, was he was Republican governor of California, which is far and few between.
Yes. And so at that time it was a totally different world, but it talked about him, in the he was the head of the SAG, the Actors Guild, right? And so he sided with Jack Warner and fighting against the mob and the unions, and they won that at that time to keep the unions out of the Actors Guilds. And why is because Reagan was such an influential person and he had such a presence around everything that he kind of turned the tide in that battle. And then, he always wanted to do more, and he had a failed presidential run before his successful one. And, they went through some of that stuff and how he was losing, but then, one quick whip from him and the whole thing flipped on its head and he won.
Well, and the elections for his second term, I mean, that was a landslide, victory. That was just a complete washover.
And then it kind of throws in there the perspective that, the communists, the Russians were trying to do everything they could to undermine anybody who was not in their interest. And Reagan was not in their interest because he was fighting the communists from back when he was in Hollywood.
Yeah. And the reason I had brought up about the Republican governor of California, because I'm trying to remember who the last one was, because he was one of the last couple.
He probably was. I mean, what was Schwarzenegger technically a Republican?
Oh man, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it nonetheless, I mean, look, I mean, like I said, growing up in that era, I was definitely a fan. There's a lot of things that happened during his terms. Todd C says, thank him for all the 80s cartoons. He actually in the 80s, that is where a lot of restrictions got placed on children's animation. A lot of restrictions. That's why you have your PSAs at the end of G.I. Joe.
So technically, those restrictions were lifted because and they put different ones in place, but they lifted restrictions on it to allow He-Man and G.I. Joe to propagate, and that led other things to come in later with Mask and GoBots and Transformers and all that stuff. But He-Man and G.I. Joe were the first ones to do that in such a way.
So yes, it had to have some for kids. Like,
Yep.
it couldn't just be a toy company advertisement.
Right.
There had to be some sort of message in there, and isn't that funny? Now, all these years later, back then it was about not playing with live wires or, cooking on and leaving a stove unattended, or, that was your PSA, that was your message to children after an episode. And now your message to kids is what it is these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a world we live in, isn't it? Jeez Louise.
So in my opinion, it's not a 22. It's not a 98. It's a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay. Well, for those interested, it is in theaters. So if you want to wait on that one, look, we're a little more choosy now in our movies. I think what we go see, there was a time people were going to see a lot of things at the movies, but we've been burned a lot in recent years. And I think people are definitely more choosy with their, more choosy for sure with their, spending, especially.
Todd, see, I think you're more on the right path there. He actually eased some of those restrictions, which allowed those properties to be made. And then so prior to that, the parents groups had stopped that from happening. And then Reagan kind of pulled back, or I don't know, whoever pulled back on it, but it was during the 80s that they pulled back on that. And then that's why some of the later shows didn't have those PSA restrictions in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, okay. I guess, that does make a lot of sense. And I just remember, like, that period of time, and just having that whole thing about them just being advertisements for toys, or having to have a message, or, some kind of something, dedicated, so that it just wasn't for consumer,
I mean, they had to work with the parents groups and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and then that's when you got your explicit lyric and labels on your CDs and albums and stuff. But that was more Tipper Gore, really, and kind of a whole different ball game altogether. So really quickly, there was something I wanted to bring up, and I know it will please many of you. It will please many of you that are watching this show. Maybe you will be getting this, Matthew, maybe not. I don't know, but I figured I'd bring it up on the early bird from the 80s. Booyah. There you go, folks. The Recoil pre-order for $125 at Ramen Toys. Yes, you can have the A-Team van. Yes, you can. Look, it even comes with statistics like torque, handling, braking, acceleration, armor, top speed, all things that you can pretend that it has while you're rolling it around. But so what, this is $125 on sale from $180. Matthew, would you pay $180 for this toy?
$180? No, I'm sorry. $180? No,
I'm with you. $125, a bit more reasonable. It's still a little more than I would, but again, now it does look super cool, and there are a lot of, I kind of scrolled through some of the features and everything.
It looks great.
It does look great.
It really does look good, and I mean, it's a niche item, and if you already have your A-Team squad or you want to use it in your things, fine. That looks great. I think the $100 base version is more acceptable. That's
all right. Here's the white one for $99. We got our black.
If you want your van down by the river, you've got your white one there. If you want the black one,
oh, that's fantastic. God, that's great. Gone way too soon, my friend.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Chris Farley. And then the Raider here, 110 early bird pricing. I guess, I mean, is it? It's like, hey, I would charge you $146, $145, whatever, or $180. But we haven't even made them. So we're going to do them for $110 instead.
Yeah. So here's my trepidation. Okay. we have seen recently when you get too many SKUs in your line before you have the base, then you fall behind on production. Things happen and things get lost and people are upset. And then you end up having to refund or cancel projects.
Gotcha.
And Ace, love him. His products have been good so far. People have really liked the Ramen Racer. I like my CAG set that I got from him for my Batmobile. But he has so many SKUs out there right now. He's trying to do so much. He's trying to do
This
this
is a
sewer
lot.
playset.
As I'm scrolling through and I'm seeing like, oh yeah, I mean, dude, I had these guys, I had all like several of them sons of bitches.
All right.
But
He's
yes,
trying to do this sewer playset. He's trying to do all these
a
vehicles,
lot.
all these tanks, all these different modifications for things. He's throwing so much out there. I I'm worried that he's spread himself way too thin
Okay.
before he's built up a strong enough base support
Right.
for producing what he can produce. And so, we've seen this happen with Marauders. Marauders Gun Runners has been around for years. We talked about this last week, and their Vietnam project, they just admitted failure on, and they're refunding
Right.
people, which they didn't have to do. But they're not going to deliver it, so they're refunding. And God bless them for that. Hope to get all my money back on that one. But they've held it for 4 years now.
That's tough.
And
Yeah,
and
we
now
did
and
talk
now you've
about it.
got
Yeah.
Ace, who's not necessarily taking money up front for some of the stuff, down payments on
Sure.
some
Sure.
of it, and some of it he has been getting hit with copyright stuff, and he's having to battle that. So there's some
Okay.
things that may have to be changed in final production. And
Okay.
while the sewer playset, I think, would have been his biggest bang for the buck if he could have gotten that out when he said he was going to. If that was already done, I think people would be more willing to accept, okay, he can do these other projects. But I'm more hesitant now than I've ever been because of the wide variety of product that he's got up there.
Yeah, it's and that's tough, man. And when we talked about it, because I've seen where people have been waiting for years. COVID kind of screwed some stuff up in there, and people waiting for years for something that and then things go radio silent, right? All of a sudden you can't get a hold of them. Your emails go replied and whatnot, and that's tough. This is a lot of product, a lot of stuff going on. I mean, look, I mean, I love them. I think they're
They look
fantastic,
great.
and they do. They really, 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 really do.
And from all reports, the quality is good as well. So
Yeah, just
I'm
looking
not doubting that. I'm just doubting whether he can fulfill
and that's a
everything.
choice somebody's got to make, when they go through this. And as I'm kind of looking through the chat here, we've got a little bit of it says yep, obviously if I can get it and show it. Let's see. I hate when this thing bounces around on you, like you go
Yeah.
to show
And
something
it's
and then all of a
yeah.
sudden it skips. But yeah, and that's what we're just showing, the alternative kidnapping white version that comes with free candy. Yeah, frostbite. That's funny too. And that is it. Clint Jorgensen says I would never buy from these guys again, but this is tempting. Todd says seems legit. Ramen does just drop a deposit. A-Team movie, War Chest. He wants to talk about it. We'll have to plan that for another day as we are kind of crossing the finish line here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Clint, ramen resale pretty good if you change your mind. Now, 3-star kind of has something about what you said about being more acceptable price wise. The Raider is 110 and the Raider is 125. No long gaps between pricing tiers. It's a $25 difference. The recoil and the Raider, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the recoil and the. I was trying to figure out exactly what he meant, but I know what he means now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's, $25 difference, no big long gaps between pricing and stuff. Yeah, I guess oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. I got you.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, he's trying to make things economical, and I get that. And he's got whatever other fees he's got on top of that for the extra stuff for the A-Team van and stuff like that. But for me,
I
the
mean,
18 van isn't worth more than about $150 for today's money.
and it, being that it's 125 right now, then if that's what they're selling it for right now, and it's weird, I guess, because it says early bird price pre-order instead of 180, it's 125. I find that odd. Um, I don't know why. I find it weird. I think you'd start at 180 and then maybe try to work
So
your way in
yeah,
the other
I don't
direction. I don't know. That's
I don't
odd.
understand his
I don't
pricing
know
at
the
all
logic
either,
there with that.
because
I get the
the more
early bird
units,
part of it, but still.
yeah, the more units you produce, the cheaper it should become. So I don't, and he wants to reward the people that get in early on it, but are they paying for all of it, or is it just a down payment?
Yeah, I mean,
There's
three stars on board for sure. Definitely he said it's all coming out. It's all quality. It's all
yeah, like I
selling.
said, the things that he's
So
produced, people are saying are good quality, and the
yeah,
stuff that I've got is good. So I'm not disappointed with any of that.
right.
I'm just worried that he has so many SKUs out
A
right
lot of
now.
irons in the fire. That's
Yep.
for sure. And I don't know what kind of operation they run as far as from a scale standpoint.
Yeah.
Like I have no clue.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the name. Yes, I know the product. But yeah, I have no idea about what that behind the scenes looks like. And sometimes people can find themselves in a bit of a bind, and with some of the other things like you mentioned, and all of a sudden maybe something takes a while. And so, if you're patient person, I think I've found that to be something that toy collectors are not very much of, are patient people.
Yeah.
As I've just come to know, it seems like. So it's called JG Wentworth then, I guess. It's your toys and you want it now. 877 toy now. 877 toy now. 877 toy now. Structured toy settlements, ladies and gentlemen. Structured toy settlements. That's what it's all about. Get your toys right now. Cut a deal. They'll take half of your HISS tank as long as you go ahead. They'll get it to you up front. They're just going to take your accessories and your figures. They're going to take the parts of your Rattler, but they'll leave you the figures, Anyway. Well, man, that's about all I think I've got. We kind of exhausted most everything on my list. I didn't know, really if there's anything else that you had.
Just a couple things
bring up.
that came in recently, but
Fire it up. Okay.
Savage Sword of Conan.
Hang on. Let's full screen you here on this bad boy. Let me get rid of the banner real quick. I think that might be my problem. At least I hope it's my problem. There we go.
All right. Savage Sword of Conan came out last week. It kicks off the Battle of the Blackstone, which is a great storyline that's coming forward from them. These Savage Sword of Conans, the Conan books and the Blackstone books, are going to be awesome. From everything I've seen in the preparation of that has been amazing. So if you like comic books, that's great. And then Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones put out their Dracula book.
Oh yeah, that's right. You sent me the pictures of the front and the back of it. That does look good.
And so this is the book 1 of 4, and it's Dracula the Impaler. And Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones have wanted to work on this forever. Kelly Jones is one of the most prolific horror artists.
Yeah.
He worked with Chuck Dixon on Batman.
Yep.
And there's my 99 of 666 versions of this one that I have here. But this story goes about how it gives a little treatise on whether they discuss, did Bram Stoker know that Vlad Tepes was an actual historical person from Romania or not? But the storyline goes into it, and it kicks it off and basically tells his story on how he got cursed in this first book, this first volume. There's some sexy ladies throughout the book too.
Hey, sexy ladies.
But it's really interesting because it tells him as the warlord, as the impaler, fighting off the Turks, the Muslim invasion, and him being Catholic. And so it's like Dracula Untold, but it's actually told well. If you ever saw Dracula Untold, some people like it, some people didn't. I kind of like it because of the lore aspect of it. And then this goes even further into that kind of idea because it wants to stick true to the history and Bram Stoker's and mixing the two together to tell this story. And it's told from a future perspective as Dracula is narrating it.
Okay.
As he's telling his story about, his early life and then how he got cursed. I won't spoil any of that.
Yeah.
But that first book was totally engaging, and I read it all yesterday. So I finally got to pick it up, and I just couldn't put it down.
What's the retail? What's the retail on it?
Well, it depends on where you're getting it from, but it's, the version I have is about $150, but the standard version is about 30 to 50 maybe. You can find it on some of the different sites because it is a kind of limited in its production run, but you can still find it for $30 or so, and it's called Dracula Book 1, The Impaler, and it's by Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones. And it's really good. It's definitely worth picking up.
Yeah,
if you like horror comics, if you like Dracula, if you like Bram Stoker's
I like Kelly Jones' work too. So I'd definitely check it out. Here in Worcester, he picked it up and he is absolutely stoked. Yes, nailed it, right? Just nailed it. Yeah, he is definitely stoked for. Oh my God, I can't help it. Oh wait, yes, here we go. Say Dracula, not Dracula. You won't know what I say, Ronnie? You don't know how I pronounce it, Ronnie? Huh? You don't know how I say Dracula? Dracula?
I pronounce it in more the Romanian. I go back and forth, but Dracula is one of the ways that I've always heard it pronounced. But Dracula is just fine.
Oh man! See, look, I couldn't help it. And the Frostbite says headlock country, and I say Dracula country. You in Dracula country, mister? Don't go near that dumb old castle now. Boy, gonna eat you. Gonna drink your blood now. Go out of here. Get out of here.
Hey, there was an American cowboy in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That's true. Oh my God. Yeah, had to get on my country there for a minute. Oh, man, let me take you.
But between those and the Silmarillion, that's what I was reading over our long weekend. Going back to the initial lore. So those are the things that I've been keeping track on, and Blackstone again comes out tomorrow. Blackstone issue number 1.
Okay.
With Conan, and they're going to tie it into all of the other Robert E. Howard characters. So Angus and Solomon Kane and several of the others are doing stories for it too. So
all right, dig it, man. Yeah, that book looks fantastic though. It does.
It's so cool.
Yeah, when you sent me the front and back of it, I was like, what is this little thing here? So I had to kind of look it up, and yeah, I might invest in I won't go all in on the 150, Well, depending on where you get it from, maybe.
Yeah, that was a special edition cover with the foil, the red foil and the black and white. And all that.
For sure. I firmly believe that, yes.
Honestly, when I got it, I didn't realize that that's what I was getting, but I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I do
Hey,
enjoy supporting Kelly Jones and Chuck
yeah,
Dixon
man.
and a lot of their products.
Yeah, there. And if you've ever got a chance, like to watch them on a stream, well, Chuck in particular is
Chuck's
great.
amazing. Chuck's got his own channel,
Yeah, he's
and he drops
funny.
2 videos a week. He drops one where people have asked him questions, either emailed him or asked him in the comments of his videos, and he'll answer those questions on a stream that usually lasts about an hour or so. Not a live stream, but a video that he premieres and doesn't know that it's a premiere, so he doesn't know that it premieres live. And then he also does a "What You Reading," which is usually put out the next day, and he talks about exactly the current things that are on his bedside table that he's reading while he's working on stuff.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool to hear him wax on about some of the stuff they've done, and like, creating Bane and
Oh
working
yeah,
on Batman and obviously Snake Eyes, and and his I love hearing him talk about how do you write a character that can't talk? Like, how do you do that? What
yeah.
do you do with that? It's interesting. And so that I always found that kind of neat. From a writer's perspective, how do you convey a story from someone who, doesn't speak? Of course, he does now. He can say all kinds of words now. Freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I
sure.
guess. All right, folks. Well, look, that's about all we got. That's all I got, man. It's about 11:22 Central Standard Time over here in Tennessee. Good old Nashville.
Go read your Tolkien. Have a good time.
Yeah. We will be back. We will be back next Tuesday. Just to give you an idea of what I got going on coming up here is tomorrow night. I'm going to be on with 3-Star Draw on Seven's Wild. Our topic is going to be the 7 Desert Island Real American Hero toy line. What 7 items, if you were stranded on a desert island, what 7 items from it could be a figure, vehicle, it could be the checkpoint. I don't give a shit. What 7 items would you, if a package washed up after your boat sank, what 7 items would you want on a desert island from the Real American Hero toy line? That's our topic for tomorrow night. We'll go over a few other things. So we've got 7 each of those. So that could be fun. And, it could be your favorites. You got to have a vehicle, though. Do you need a play set? Would you get a flag? But you don't have enough figures to staff it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have some bad guys, right? You got to have
If
a
you're stuck on a
battle.
desert island, you better pick the flag or the whale, because actually probably the whale, because it's pick 7 whales because they actually float. You could make them a raft and get off the island. Oh, sorry.
I love some of the comments in the chat. I assume. Oh, and there's Shane right there sneaking in. My bad. I see here earlier a little bit. He says slid in. He made it at the end. I appreciate you stopping in. Obviously, man, it's good to see you. Yeah. But yeah, enough whales to float across the ocean, or somebody said a flare gun. Well, if it's a plastic flare gun that fits in a 3 3/4 inch hand, I don't think it'd be of much use on a desert island.
They had play toys, right? So they had play versions of stuff.
Yes, that's true.
Walkie-talkies. They had walkie-talkies.
Yeah. Well, we're talking figures, vehicles, right? Like, we're gonna kind of keep it. We had to talk about it, like, how we do this. Is it classified? No, there's not enough vehicles to pick from, and it'd be the figures, and be what's your 5 favorite figures, 7 favorite figures. But in this instance, if you're stuck on yeah, I know, right? Yeah, 3-star. It's just great.
Sorry,
Beat to the punch, my friend.
My head. I didn't even know that was your topic until he mentioned it right here.
Yeah, so, no, I didn't even mention it to him earlier. He just found out about it. So, but for those of you in the chat, if y'all want to, man, stop by tomorrow night. We'll start that at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and so if you guys want to stop by, that's what we're going to be doing, talking some GI Joe. We'll slip in a couple other things. I know there's a couple figure lines that 3-star wants to talk about that are coming out that look really, really good, that I know a lot of y'all will be interested in. And so yeah, man, that's what I got going on. Fridays unfiltered stream is a little weird. I've really got to try to figure that out during football season with my son in marching band. So I'll keep y'all posted. I do want to do them because I enjoy doing them, being laid back and just kind of buzzing through stuff. But it is tough to kind of try to pick that time out if it's Friday day. I know a lot of people are working and whatever. So y'all let me know. You let me know. Send me a comment. Leave a comment, on this video on the replay. Send me a comment on the community post, whatever. If you'd like me to do that stream, unfiltered stream during the day while you're at work, maybe some of y'all can listen to it, and y'all have to watch, you can listen to it, whatever. But just let me know what you think. But that's what I got going on, and Seven's Wild being the most important one of them. You and I will be back next Tuesday again. But what do you got going on, buddy? And give everybody once again for the replay and anything else your Instagram handle and where they can find your photographs.
Yep, Mamu's action figure blog. I've got a Cobra hierarchy picture that's coming out tomorrow, I drop shoots every single day, 1 to 2 of them. Turtle Tuesdays was today. Sundays are usually GI Joe. Saturdays are Snake Eye Saturdays and Savage Crucible, so that's a double posting. Fridays we might be doing more Batman, but it's my comic book stuff I generally do. Mondays I try to do Mezcos or Moon Knight or Mythic Legions on Mondays. Sometimes all of the above. Because actually there's a comic book where they're all in it together, but that's another thing. I did want to show this little quick video if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
It's just that basically a short little highlight for my most liked images from the August. And so I'll just throw that up there.
Let's do it.
And it goes kind of fast, but
I do love that one. Yeah, I do love. Yes.
Yeah, and so I blow through that. The Savage Crucible, the Snake Eye Saturdays. You can see a lot of the stuff that I do. Let's try that one more time. So my first one was that Indiana Jones one. Everybody loved that one. Yes. I did 3 Indiana Jones ones, and I didn't think that one was the best, but that's the one everybody loved.
I do like that one. I love. Oh, and I like that one with the black and white and the red with Jinx is great.
That was a nice little group collab that he said, hey, take a picture of something red, and then I'm going to take everything else out and just leave the red up there. And so he edited those for us.
Yeah, that's great.
And so that was just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
my 86, my 85 and 80 or 86 and 87 photos, my Night Creepers, Cold Slither, Doc, the black and white, the Fallen Lemurian, Snake Eye Saturdays, Bloodies, Savages. These Savage Crucible figures are so awesome. They're inspirational to shoot. I love that stuff. What you got there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that Savage Cold Slither set was the Codename Iowa set, and it came with a stage. It came with a road box. It came with a complete cabin diorama. On the outside, it looks like the cabin. On the inside, it looks like a cabin. Or you can take the insert out, and it's all scientific. And all the furniture you can flip over, and it's all digital, or it's all looking like cabin furniture. It's really kind of cool looking the way they did it. It's got microphones, and it's got a little chameleon that you can actually, like a pet chameleon that you can put on a shoulder. Holographic sweet stuff. It's got the hair pieces. So he's got the siren hair that I have in that picture. It's got a mohawk that I actually put on Zorana one time. It's got the vest that he's wearing there and the microphone he's got in his hand. It's a really great set. Codename Iowa does amazing 1/18th and 1/12th diorama and prop set stuff for their convention, and their conventions in a couple weeks for assembly required. And they do a virtual one as well, where they do like these big sets that they send out to people. And I got one a couple years ago, and it had Snake Eyes water, or Storm Shadow's water tower. And that was why I got the whole thing, was just for that water tower. It's awesome.
Dude. Sometimes you got to get what you got to get, to get what you want. And it's that usable stuff too.
Yeah.
You see something, you're going to be able to use it. Well, sweet, man. Yeah, I love that role, and I have definitely scrolled through, I think, all of those, if I'm not mistaken, on Insta. So yeah, man. I think that's about all we got. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Watch it on replay. Throw a comment, whatever on whatever you like, and throw a like, sub, whatever. You know the drill. I don't need to remind you guys. Y'all are great. Uh, but I do appreciate you coming in. I know Matthew does too. So I guess until next Tuesday, brother, we'll do it again, and I will talk to all of y'all soon. Maybe see you tomorrow night, next week. Sound good? Matthew, love it. Always a pleasure, my friend. Y'all take care, everybody.